The sketch that stayed begins with a tired artist, a lost napkin drawing, and a billionaire who sees himself in ink. What starts as a quiet connection becomes a love that redefines family, ambition, and healing. But will a betrayal close to home undo it all? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The evening air had a slight chill as Maya Ellis hurried down the narrow streets of the West Village. At 41, she wasn't where she'd imagined she would be in life. Her worn leather messenger bag bounced against her hip, filled with sketches for clients who constantly demanded changes, but were slow to pay. Antonio's Cafe was her Tuesday night ritual, the one luxury she allowed herself each week. The small Italian restaurant with its checkered tablecloths and soft lighting was never too crowded, never too loud. Perfect for someone who spent her days trying to make other people's visions come to life, while her own dreams waited. "The usual, Maya," Tony, the owner, called out as she entered. Maya nodded with a tired smile. "Yes, please. And a glass of the house red." She settled into her favorite corner table, the one that gave her a view of both the street and the other. Patrons. Most were couples or small groups of friends, laughing and sharing stories. Maya pulled out her sketchbook, then paused. Instead, she reached for one of the paper napkins on the table. Sometimes it felt better to create something that wouldn't need to please anyone else. Something temporary. As she waited for her pasta, Maya began to draw. Her pen moved across the napkin with practiced ease. She wasn't thinking about what she was creating. She was just letting her feelings flow. Before long, the image of a man took shape on the napkin. He sat alone, the city skyline behind him, his expensive suit folded neatly on a bench beside him. Above his chest, his heart hovered like a balloon straining against its string, trying to float away. It was how she felt most days, dressed for the part of a successful adult, but with her heart always threatening to drift away from the life she'd built. "Your linguine, signorina?" the waiter said, placing the steaming plate in front of her. Maya tucked her pen away and enjoyed her meal slowly, savoring each bite as she watched the world pass by outside the window. When she finished, she left. A generous tip, more than she should given her bank account balance, and after a moment's hesitation, tucked the napkin sketch under her empty plate. No signature, no note, just a moment of her soul left behind. She didn't know that the next morning, her simple drawing would change the course of 2 lives. Rowan Hale's morning routine was as precise as the code that had made him his billions. Wake at 5:30. A.M., run 5 miles, shower, dress in one of the 15 nearly identical suits in his closet, and before heading to the gleaming Hale Tech Tower that dominated the Midtown skyline, stop at Antonio's for breakfast. At 46, Rowan had achieved everything he'd set out to do. Hale Tech was valued at over $20 billion. He had homes in 4 countries. His face had been on the cover of Business Week twice. But lately, he'd found himself wondering what all of it was for. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," Tony greeted him. "Your usual table is ready." Rowan nodded his thanks. He valued Tony's discretion. Here, he wasn't Rowan Hale, tech titan. He was just a regular customer who liked his coffee black and his eggs over easy. He sat at his usual corner table, the same one Maya had occupied the night before, and opened the financial section of the newspaper. When his coffee arrived, he reached for the sugar bowl, lifting the small plate it sat on. That's when he saw it. The napkin with the sketch caught his eye immediately. He picked it up carefully, as if it might disintegrate in his hands. The drawing was simple, just black ink on a white napkin, but the emotion in it knocked the breath from his lungs. The man in the drawing, sitting alone with the city behind, him and his heart floating above him. Rowan felt a jolt of recognition so strong it made his hand tremble. That was exactly how he felt. Sitting above the world he had conquered, disconnected from it all the same. He looked up at Tony, who was passing by with a coffee pot. "Who sat here last night?" Rowan asked, his voice uncharacteristically urgent. Tony glanced at the napkin. "Ah, the artist. She comes in every Tuesday. Quiet lady, always drawing. Pays in cash, never leaves her name. Has she been coming here long? Maybe a year. Always sits alone. Orders the linguine." Rowan stared at the sketch again. He couldn't explain why, but he needed to know who had seen into his soul with such clarity. He carefully folded the napkin and slipped it into his suit pocket. For the first time in years, he left his breakfast untouched. The offices of Hale Tech occupied the top 15 floors of a gleaming glass tower. Rowan's private office was on the highest floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Manhattan. Usually, he found the sight energizing. Today, it only reinforced the loneliness captured in the sketch. "Your 9 a.m. is waiting." "Mr. Hale," his assistant Patricia reminded him as he walked past her desk. "Cancel everything today," he said. Patricia's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose in surprise. In the 8 years she'd worked for him, Rowan had never cancelled meetings without reason. "Everything," she repeated. "Everything," he confirmed, closing his office door behind him. Inside, Rowan took the napkin from his pocket and smoothed it. Out on his desk. Who was this woman? How had she captured exactly what he'd been feeling for months now? The emptiness that came with having everything and no one to share it with. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother, James. They hadn't spoken in years. Not since Rowan had refused to fund James's latest business venture after 3 previous failures. The message was brief. "Mum's birthday dinner sat 7 p.m. She asked me to remind you." Rowan set the phone down without replying. His relationship with his family had become as distant as his heart in the drawing. When had that happened? When had success become isolation? He spent the day with the sketch, barely noticing as the sun moved across the sky. By evening, he had made a decision. He called for his driver and headed back to Antonio's. "Evening, Mr. Hale," Tony said, surprised to see him twice in one day. "Everything all right?" "I need a favor," Rowan said, placing a handwritten note on the counter. "Could you put this in your window? It's important." Tony read the note. "To the artist who left her heart in ink, I'm not trying to buy it. I just want to say thank you." "Art teacher, of course," Tony agreed, clearly curious but too professional to ask questions. "And when she comes in," Rowan added, "please give her this." He handed Tony a business card with his private number written on the back. As he left the cafe, Rowan wondered if she would return, if she would reach out. For the first time in years, he felt something new stirring in his chest. Hope. A week passed. Maya hadn't returned to Antonio's. Her schedule had been packed with last-minute client revisions and her evening art class at the community center. "Remember, it's not about making something perfect," she told her students, a mix of retirees and young professionals seeking creative outlets. "It's about capturing feeling, truth." After class, she packed up her supplies and headed home to her small apartment in Brooklyn. The space was cluttered but cozy, filled with art books, plants, and her own paintings covering nearly every wall. Her phone rang as she was making tea. "Maya, sweetie, it's Ellen." Her agent's voice was always slightly too loud, as if she was perpetually shouting across a crowded room. "Hi, Ellen. Please tell me someone finally approved the book cover design." "Better. That children's publishing house loved your portfolio. They want to meet about illustrating their new series. 6 books guaranteed, with options for more." Maya nearly dropped her mug. After years of one-off jobs and constant hustling, a contract like this could give her stability. That's amazing," she managed. "They want to meet next week, and Maya, the advance is generous. You might finally be able to quit those art classes." After they hung up, Maya sat on her worn sofa, processing the news. This was what she'd been working toward for years. So why? Did it feel like something was still missing? She thought about Antonio's. She hadn't been there in over a week. Maybe she'd treat herself to dinner tomorrow to celebrate. When she arrived the next evening, she immediately noticed the note in the window. She read it twice, her heart racing. Someone had found her sketch, someone named R.H. Tony, she called, approaching the owner. "What's this note about?" Tony smiled broadly. "Ah, you saw it. Yes, a gentleman was very moved by a drawing you left. He asked me to give you this if you returned." He handed her a business card. Maya's eyes widened as she read the name, Rowan Hale, CEO, Hale Tech Industries. "The man with the napkin was Rowan Hale?" she asked incredulously. "He's been coming here for years," Tony said with a shrug. "Very private person. Until now, it seems." Maya stared at the card, turning it over to find a handwritten phone number. Rowan Hale wanted to talk to her about a doodle on a napkin. She tucked the card into her pocket, ordered her usual linguine, and tried to make sense of this strange turn of events. At home that night, she pulled out her sketchbook and began to draw. Not for a client, not for her portfolio. For him, the foe. Mysterious man who'd connected with her art in a way few ever had. She drew a woman standing on a rooftop, her hair blowing in the wind, holding a paper balloon. The woman was looking up at the sky, where other balloons floated freely. Her face showed both longing and fear, wanting to let go, afraid to release what she held. In the morning, Maya addressed an envelope to the Hale Tech offices. She slipped the sketch inside with no note, no explanation, just art speaking to art. As she dropped it in the mailbox, she wondered what would happen next. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt something more powerful than hope. Possibility. The Hale Tech executive team sat around the conference table, presenting quarterly projections that Rowan barely heard. His mind was elsewhere, wondering if the artist would ever see his note, ever reach out. Mr. Hale. His CFO's voice broke through his thoughts. Your thoughts on the acquisition proposal? Before Rowan could answer, Patricia entered the room with an envelope. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this just arrived for you, marked personal. Rowan rarely received personal mail at the office. He took the envelope, excused himself, and stepped out into the hallway. Inside was a sketch, a woman on a rooftop with a paper balloon. The artistry was unmistakable. It was her. He studied every detail of the drawing, understanding its message instantly. Here was someone else who felt trapped between wanting freedom and fearing the fall. Back in his office, Rowan took out his fountain pen and a cream-colored card from his desk drawer. He wrote simply, "Let me feed you dinner. Not as a CEO, just a man who fell in love with a napkin. Yours if you'll allow it, Rowan." He placed the card in an envelope and addressed it to the artist at Antonio's cafe. Tony would know who to give it to. That evening, as he stood at his office window watching the city lights flicker on, Rowan felt something shifting inside him. For the first time in years, the balloon of his heart wasn't straining to escape. He was reaching towards something, someone. And for once in his life, Rowan Hale had no idea what would happen next. The thought both terrified and thrilled him. He smiled at his reflection in the window. Sometimes the most unexpected sketch could change everything. Maya stood in front of her closet, two dresses held up against her body as she looked in the mirror. The black one was safe, classic. The blue one was bolder, with a neckline that dipped just enough to make her feel both nervous and confident. This is crazy, she muttered to herself. Meeting a billionaire for dinner? What am I thinking? She had found Rowan's invitation at Antonio's 3 days ago. Her first instinct had been to ignore it. Men like Rowan Hale didn't have dinner with struggling artists without an agenda. But curiosity had won out, and she'd sent a simple text to the number on his business card. Yes, when and where? His reply had been immediate. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., I'll send a car. Now, as the clock ticked closer to 6:30, Maya chose the blue dress. If she was going to do something this unexpected, she might as well be bold about it. At exactly 6:30, her buzzer rang. The driver was courteous, opening the door to a sleek black car that probably cost more than she made in 2 years. "Mr. Hale asked me to give you this," the driver said, handing her a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "No restaurants tonight. I thought you might prefer something quieter. I hope that's all right. Rowan." The car wound through the streets of Manhattan and up to a private entrance of Hale Tech Tower. Maya's stomach tightened with nerves. Was this dinner going to be in some sterile corporate boardroom? The elevator whisked her up to the top floor. When the doors opened, Maya stepped into a space that took her breath away. It wasn't an office at all, but a private apartment. Floor to ceiling, windows offered a panoramic view of the city as the sun set, turning the skyline golden. "You came," Rowan said, stepping out from the kitchen area. He was dressed casually in dark slacks and a light blue button-down shirt. Still expensive, Maya could tell, but far from the power suits she'd seen in his magazine photos. "I did," she replied, suddenly feeling shy. Though I'm still not sure. Why? Rowan smiled, and Maya noticed how it softened his entire face. In the business publications, he always looked serious, almost stern. In person, his smile reached his eyes, creating small lines at the corners that hadn't been photoshopped away. Because of this, he said, gesturing to a wall where her napkin sketch hung, beautifully framed. Next to it was her second drawing, of the woman with the balloon. You framed it, Maya said, stepping closer. It's the most honest thing anyone has given me in years, Rowan replied. When I saw it, I felt seen. In a way, I haven't in a very long time. There was a vulnerability in his admission that surprised Maya. This wasn't what she had expected from one of New York's most powerful businessmen. I hope you're hungry, Rowan said, gesturing toward a table set by the windows. I'm a terrible cook, but I know how to order from the best places in the city. Over dinner, Italian food from a restaurant Maya could never afford, they began to talk. At first, their conversation was careful, polite. Maya spoke about her freelance work and her teaching. Rowan talked about the early days of Hailtech, before it became an empire. But as they shared a bottle of wine, their walls began to lower. Why technology? Maya asked. What drew you to it? Rowan looked out at the city lights for a moment before answering. My brother James and I used to build computers in our garage. We dreamed of making systems that would connect people across any distance. His expression clouded slightly. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that. The connecting. Pot, is that why your heart is floating away in my drawing? Maya asked softly. Rowan's eyes met hers. Is that why the woman in your second drawing is holding onto her balloon instead of letting it go? Maya felt her cheeks warm. It was disconcerting. How quickly he had read her through her art. My mother taught me to draw, she said, changing the subject slightly. On the kitchen floor with crayons when I was 4. She said art was how we make the invisible visible. She sounds wise. She was. Cancer took her 3 years ago. Maya didn't usually talk about her mother's death with people she'd just met, but something about Rowan made it feel natural. I'm sorry, he said, and Maya could tell he meant it. My father died when I was in college, heart attack. He never saw what Hailtech became. Do you think he'd be proud? Rowan considered this. Of the success, yes. Of the man I've become. He trailed off, then shrugged. It's complicated. Family usually is, Maya agreed. By the time dessert arrived, they had moved from the table to the couch, their conversation flowing more freely. Maya learned that Rowan hadn't taken a vacation in 6 years, that he read classic novels to unwind, and that despite his wealth, he still drove the same car he'd had in college, a restored 1967 Mustang that he kept in a garage in Connecticut. Rowan discovered that Maya had once traveled to Paris just to see a particular painting in the Louvre, that she could name every shade of blue in a sunset, and that she'd never married because, as she put it, I've never met someone who saw me clearly, instead of the person they wanted me to be. Until now, Rowan asked, the question hanging between them. Maya didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, Why did you invite me here tonight, Rowan? Really? He set his wine glass down and leaned forward. Because when I saw your drawing, I recognized myself in a way I haven't in years, and I wanted to meet the person who could see something in me that I thought I'd hidden from everyone, including myself. The honesty of his answer stirred something in Maya. Not just attraction, although that was certainly there. It was the recognition of someone who might understand her in return. It's getting late, she said, glancing at her watch. I should probably go. Rowan nodded, not pushing. Of course. My driver can take you home. At the elevator, he hesitated, then asked, Would you have dinner with me again? Maybe at a real restaurant next time? Maya smiled. I'd like that. The next morning, Maya woke to a text from Ellen, her agent. Meeting with children's publisher. Moved up. They want to see you today at 2 p.m. Big opportunity. Don't be late. Maya rushed through her morning routine, gathering her portfolio and preparing for the meeting. As she was about to leave, another text arrived. This one from Rowan. Thank you for last night. You make me remember there's more to life than spreadsheets and board meetings. Maya smiled, typing back a quick response. Thank you for the best Italian food I've had since Italy, and for seeing more than just the artist. The publishing house offices were sleek and modern, with colorful children's book covers framed on every wall. Maya sat in the conference room, presenting her portfolio to 3 editors who nodded appreciatively. "Your style is exactly what we're looking for," the lead editor, a woman named Barbara, said. "Whimsical, but with depth, the kind of illustrations that children will want to look at again and again. And parents won't mind reading repeatedly," added another editor. They discussed the project, a series of books about a young girl who discovered she could bring her drawings to life. The advance they offered was more than Maya had made in the past year. "We'll need the first book's illustrations in 8 weeks, Barbara explained. "Can you commit to that timeline?" "Absolutely," Maya assured them, already mentally rearranging her schedule. This was the opportunity she'd been waiting for. As she left the meeting, contract in hand, Maya felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. She decided to walk through Central Park to celebrate, the spring sunshine warming her face. Her phone rang. It was Ellen again. "Maya, I just heard from the publishers. They're thrilled. This is it, sweetie. Your big break." "I know," Maya laughed. "I just left the meeting. Well, I have more news. Remember that art therapy program at the Children's Hospital I told you about? They want to interview you for the teaching position next week." Maya stopped walking. The hospital program was something she'd applied for months ago. A chance to use art to help sick children express their feelings. It was meaningful work that spoke to her heart. That's amazing," she said. "Between the book deal and this, you could finally quit those community center classes," Ellen continued. "Focus on work that pays what you're worth." After hanging up, Maya sat on a park bench, processing everything. Her career was suddenly taking off in directions she'd only dreamed about. And then there was Rowan, a completely unexpected connection that felt more real after one dinner than relationships she'd had for months. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rowan. "Are you free tomorrow night? There's a small gallery opening in Brooklyn I thought you might enjoy." Maya smiled and typed back, "Yes, looking forward to it." As she continued her walk through the park, Maya felt as if the paper balloon from her drawing was finally lifting her up rather than pulling away. Across town, Rowan sat in his office, staring at the latest acquisition proposal without really seeing it. His mind kept returning to the previous evening, to Maya's laugh, to the way she spoke about color as if it were a living thing, to the comfort he'd felt in her presence. Patricia knocked and entered with his afternoon schedule. "Your brother called again," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "He said it's about your mother." Rowan sighed. James only contacted him when he wanted something, usually money. Their relationship had been strained for years, ever since Rowan had refused to fund James's 3rd failed business venture. "I'll call him later," Rowan said, knowing he probably wouldn't. "And Mr. Davis from Nexus Tech is still requesting a meeting. That's the 3rd time this month." Michael Davis was Rowan's chief competitor, the CEO of the only company that came close to challenging Hailtech's market dominance. His persistent meeting requests were unusual and somewhat concerning. "Tell him I'm booked solid for the next month," Rowan replied. After Patricia left, he turned to his computer and did something he rarely did. He searched for Maya Ellis Artist online. The results showed a simple professional website with samples of her work. Children's book illustrations, magazine covers, advertisements. Her style was distinctive, colorful, and emotive. Even her commercial work contained that same quality he'd seen in the Napkin sketch, the ability to capture feeling with a few simple lines. There was also a small article from an art blog featuring her community center classes. There was a photo of Maya surrounded by students of various ages, her smile warm and genuine as she helped an elderly woman with a painting. Rowan was so absorbed in learning about Maya that he almost missed his 3 p.m. meeting. He quickly closed the browser and put on his CEO face, as his assistant called it. But throughout the meeting, his mind kept drifting back to Maya and their plans for tomorrow night. For the first time in years, Rowan was looking forward to something that had nothing to do with business. The gallery was small and tucked away on a side street in Williamsburg. As Rowan's car pulled up, Maya waited nervously on the sidewalk. She'd chosen a simple dress again, paired with her favorite red boots. Professional but with the artistic touch that was true to who she was. When Rowan stepped out of the car, Maya was struck again by how different he looked in person, compared to his business photos. Tonight he wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made his eyes seem even more intensely blue. "You look lovely," he said, offering his arm. "I hope you don't mind a smaller venue. The artist is a friend of mine from college, before I became Rowan Hale CEO and started getting invited to the big galleries for my money rather than my opinion." Maya took his arm, appreciating his candor. "I prefer smaller galleries. You can actually see the art without fighting through crowds of people who are just there for the free wine." Rowan laughed, and Maya noticed how it transformed his face, erasing the seriousness that seemed to be his default expression. Inside, the gallery was displaying a series of abstract sculptures, twisted metal and glass that captured and reflected light in unexpected ways. The artist, Daniel Chen, greeted Rowan with a warm hug. The elusive Rowan Hale out in public at an art show, Daniel teased. "I'm honored. I brought someone who can actually discuss your work intelligently," Rowan replied, introducing Maya. As Maya and Daniel fell into a conversation about technique and inspiration, Rowan watched her, fascinated by the animation in her face as she spoke about something she loved. In his world of corporate mergers and stock prices, genuine passion was rare. Later, as they walked through the gallery, Rowan surprised Maya by pointing out details in the sculptures that most people would miss, the way certain angles created unexpected shadows, how the light changed the piece depending on where you stood. "You have a good eye," she commented. "My mother was an art teacher," Rowan admitted. "Before she married my father and became a corporate wife, she used to take James and me to museums every weekend." "You haven't mentioned your mother before," Maya noted. "Are you close?" A shadow crossed Rowan's face. "We were once. After my father died, things changed. She remarried quickly, to my father's business partner. It complicated things." "And your brother?" Patricia mentioned he called. Rowan's expression tightened slightly. "James has always been ambitious without direction. He wants success without the work." He shook his head, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. "But let's not talk about family drama tonight." After the gallery, they had dinner at a small Thai restaurant where the owner greeted Rowan by name and seated them at a secluded table in the back. There, their conversation flowed into the night, covering everything from favorite books to childhood memories to dreams they'd set aside. "I always wanted to illustrate children's books," Maya confessed over dessert. "And today I finally signed a contract to do exactly that." "Maya, that's wonderful," Rowan said, his smile genuine. "Congratulations, and I have an interview for an art therapy position at the Children's Hospital next week." "You'd be perfect for that," Rowan said, reaching across the table to take her hand. The touch was gentle, almost hesitant. Maya looked down at their joined hands, then back up at Rowan. "This is strange, isn't it, meeting like this, connecting so quickly?" "Strange," Rowan agreed, "but good strange, I think." As they left the restaurant, a spring rain began to fall. Rowan immediately took off his jacket and held it over Maya, sheltering her as they hurried back to his car. "Let me take you home," he said, but there was a question in his voice, an invitation to extend the evening. "It's still early," Maya replied. "Maybe we could go somewhere else?" Rowan smiled, raindrops clinging to his hair. "I know just the place." He directed his driver to the High Line, the elevated park built on a historic freight rail line above Manhattan's West Side. At night, with the rain having just stopped, it was nearly empty. Lights from the surrounding buildings and the park's own subtle illumination created a magical atmosphere. As they walked along the path, surrounded by carefully curated plantings that glistened with raindrops, Rowan tentatively took Maya's hand again. This time, she intertwined her fingers with his. "I haven't felt this way in a long time," Rowan admitted quietly. "Maybe ever." Maya squeezed his hand. "Me neither. It's a little terrifying." "Terrifying?" he asked, stopping to look at her. "Connecting with someone, opening yourself up to possibilities, to potential hurt." Rowan nodded slowly. "The woman with the paper balloon," he said, referencing her second drawing. "Afraid to let go. And the man with his heart floating away." Maya countered, afraid to hold on. They stood there in the gentle post-rain mist, the city lights reflecting in the puddles around them, understanding flowing between them without words. When Rowan finally leaned down to kiss her, it was soft and questioning. Maya responded with equal gentleness, her hand coming up to rest against his cheek. It wasn't a kiss of passion or urgency. It was a kiss of recognition, of finding someone who saw you clearly. When they broke apart, Rowan rested his forehead against hers. "I'm not very good at this," he whispered. "Relationships, opening up. I've been focused on work for so long." "We can figure it out together," Maya replied, "one step at a time." Later, as Rowan's car pulled up in front of Maya's Brooklyn apartment building, he walked her to the door. "When can I see you again?" he asked. "I have client deadlines for the next few days," Maya said. "But what about Sunday? We could do something simple." "I'd like that," Rowan replied. He kissed her once more, a brief, warm touch that held promise, without pressure. As Maya climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt as if she were floating. Everything was happening so fast, her career taking off, this unexpected connection with Rowan. It was like the universe had suddenly decided to say yes to everything she'd been quietly wishing for. She didn't notice the black sedan parked across the street or the man inside taking photos of her and Rowan at her door. She didn't know that by morning their private moment would be all over the tabloids, or that the quiet beginning of their relationship was about to become very, very public. And neither of them realized that while they had been sharing Thai food and rain-damp kisses, Rowan's brother James had been meeting with Michael Davis, CEO of Nexus Tech, setting in motion events that would test their new connection in ways they couldn't imagine. The headline on the gossip website was bold and unmistakable: "Tech Tycoon's Secret Romance with Struggling Artist." Beneath it was a photo of Rowan and Maya kissing on her doorstep, the intimacy of the moment, now exposed for all to see. Maya stared at her phone in horror. She had woken to a barrage of text messages from friends and colleagues, all sharing links to various versions of the same story. Some tabloids were already speculating about her motives, suggesting she was after Rowan's fortune. "Billionaire Rowan Hale appears to have found love with unknown Brooklyn artist," one article began. Sources close to Hale question the sudden relationship and the timing as Hale Tech stock reaches an all-time high. Her phone rang. It was Ellen. "Maya, have you seen the news? This is huge. Do you know what this means for your career?" Maya felt sick. "Ellen, this isn't a publicity stunt." "Of course not, honey, but you can't deny its great exposure. The children's book publishers already called me this morning, asking if they could mention your relationship with Hale in their marketing materials." "What? No," Maya exclaimed. "That's private. It has nothing to do with my work." After hanging up, Maya sat on her bed, trying to process what was happening. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rowan. "I just saw the photos. I'm so sorry. Can I come over?" 20 minutes later, Rowan arrived at her door. He looked different than he had the night before, his face tight with tension, his movements rigid with anger. "I'm having my security team investigate who took those photos," he said as soon as she let him in. "This is completely unacceptable." "How bad is it going to get?" Maya asked, gesturing for him to sit on her worn couch. Rowan ran a hand through his hair. "It depends. The business press will focus on how it might affect Hale Tech. The tabloids will speculate about our relationship." He looked around her small apartment, taking in the art supplies scattered everywhere, the paintings hanging on every wall. "I'm used to this kind of scrutiny, but you shouldn't have to deal with it. I've already had 3 clients call to ask if I'm still taking their commissions or if I'm going to be too busy with my billionaire boyfriend," Maya said, the words bitter in her mouth. Rowan reached for her hand. "We could wait it out. Lie low for a while until they lose interest." Maya felt a flicker of disappointment. "You want to stop seeing each other?" "No," Rowan said quickly. "That's the last thing I want. But I don't want this media circus to hurt you either." Before Maya could respond, Rowan's phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this. It's Patricia." He stepped into Maya's tiny kitchen for privacy. Maya could hear the tension in his voice as he spoke. When he returned, his expression was grim. "I have to go. There's a situation at the office." He hesitated, then added, It seems our stock dropped 8% this morning after those photos came out. Because of me? Maya asked, her stomach dropping. No, Rowan said firmly. Because investors are irrational and the market reacts to gossip. This isn't your fault. After he left, Maya tried to focus on her work. She had illustrations due for a magazine by the end of the week, and now the children's book contract to begin. But her concentration was shattered by constant phone notifications and the knowledge that strangers were dissecting her relationship with Rowan. Around noon, her buzzer rang. A delivery person stood at her door with an enormous bouquet of wildflowers and a small wrapped package. The card read, "These reminded me of your drawings, wild and beautiful and honest. The gift is a poor substitute for seeing you, but I hope it helps. R." Inside the package was a small sketchbook bound in soft leather with a note tucked inside the cover. "For your eyes only, no prying cameras." Maya smiled, touched by the gesture. Despite the chaos, Rowan was thinking about what would matter to her. Her phone rang again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello, Ms. Ellis. This is Barbara from Children's Wonder Press. I wanted to touch base about our project, given the recent developments." Maya steeled herself. "The books. Yes, I've already started sketching concepts." "That's wonderful," Barbara said, sounding relieved. "We were concerned that with your new personal situation, you might not be available." "My personal life doesn't affect my work," Maya said firmly. "The illustrations will be ready on schedule." "Excellent. And about the publicity angle?" "I won't be discussing my private life in connection with the books," Maya interrupted. "My work stands on its own merit." There was a pause on the other end. "I understand. We'll respect your privacy." After hanging up, Maya felt a surge of determination. She wouldn't let the gossip define her or her relationship with Rowan. She pulled out her new sketchbook and began drawing, pouring her frustration and resolve into the images. At Hale Tech headquarters, Rowan was in the middle of an emergency board meeting. "This is precisely what we were concerned about," said Harold Winters, the oldest board member. "Your personal life becoming a liability to the company." "My personal life is my own business," Rowan replied coldly. "And a temporary stock fluctuation is hardly a crisis." "It's not just the stock," said Jennifer Liu, head of marketing. "Nexus Tech is using this distraction to approach our clients. Michael Davis has personally called 3 of our biggest accounts today." Rowan's jaw tightened. Michael Davis had been trying to poach Hale Tech's clients for years. Using this situation as leverage was a new low. "And then there's the matter of your brother," Harold added. "He's been calling investors, suggesting that your new relationship indicates instability in your leadership." "James has no connection to this company," Rowan said sharply, "and no insight into my personal life. Nevertheless, we need to address this situation before it escalates further," Harold insisted. "Perhaps a statement from PR clarifying that this is a casual relationship." Rowan stood. "I will not be commenting on my personal life, and neither will Hale Tech. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do." In his office, Rowan found Patricia waiting with a stack of messages. "Your mother has called 4 times, she said, and James 6. Rowan sighed. "What did they want?" "Your mother was concerned about the photos. James didn't leave a message." Patricia hesitated. "There's something else. Michael Davis is in the lobby. He says he won't leave until you see him." Rowan checked his watch. This day was quickly becoming a nightmare, and it was only 2 p.m. "Fine. Send him up." Michael Davis was the opposite of Rowan in many ways. Flamboyant where Rowan was reserved, charismatic where Rowan was analytical. But they shared an intense competitive drive that had made their companies the 2 giants of the tech industry. "Rowan," Michael greeted him with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Love life keeping you busy?" "What do you want, Michael?" Rowan asked, not bothering with pleasantries. "Just checking in on an old friend. The market can be so fickle, can't it? One day you're on top, the next..." He gestured vaguely. "Well, you know how it goes. If you came here to gloat about temporary market fluctuations, you're wasting both our time." Michael leaned forward. "Actually, I came with an offer. Nexus is prepared to acquire Hale Tech at a very generous valuation. Give your shareholders a nice premium, free you up to focus on other interests, he smirked. Like your new girlfriend. Rowan's hands clenched. Hale Tech is not for sale, especially not to you. Everyone has a price, Rowan, Michael said, standing. Even you, think about it, before things get worse. After Michael left, Rowan sat at his desk, thinking. This coordinated attack, the photos, James contacting investors, Michael's sudden acquisition offer, was too perfectly timed to be coincidence. He called his head of security. I need you to find out who took those photos of me last night, and I want to know who James Hale has been meeting with for the past month. Next, he called the one person he knew he could trust. Maya, are you free for dinner tonight? There's something we need to discuss. Maya arrived at Rowan's penthouse that evening to find him standing at the window, a tumbler of whiskey in his hand, looking out at the city. That bad? She asked, setting down her bag. Rowan turned, his expression softening when he saw her. Better now, he said, crossing the room to kiss her gently. I got your flowers, Maya said, and the sketchbook, thank you. They moved to the couch where Rowan had laid out dinner, this time from a simple neighborhood deli rather than an expensive restaurant. I thought we might need comfort food tonight, he explained. As they ate, Rowan told Maya about his day, the board meeting, Michael's visit, his suspicion that someone was orchestrating these events. You think your brother is involved? Maya asked. James has always been jealous of Hale Tech's success, Rowan said. And he's desperate for money. His latest venture is failing, and he's heavily in debt. But would he really try to sabotage you? His own brother? Rowan's expression hardened. Our relationship has been complicated since our father died. James blamed me for not supporting his business ideas, even though they were poorly conceived and high risk. What about your mother? Could she help? Rowan sighed. She remarried my father's business partner 2 years after his death. She tries, how to stay neutral, but she's caught in the middle, Maya finished for him. Exactly. Rowan took her hand. Maya, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. She nodded, suddenly nervous. Would it be easier for you if we took a step back? At least until this media attention dies down? Maya thought about it. The day had been difficult. The calls, the speculation, the barely veiled insinuations about her motives. But the idea of not seeing Rowan, of ending this connection that had formed so quickly and deeply between them, felt worse. Is that what you want? She asked. No, Rowan said firmly, but I don't want to make your life harder either. Maya squeezed his hand. My work has always been about honesty, about seeing and being seen. That's what drew me to you. I'm not going to walk away from that just because it's complicated. Relief washed over Rowan's face. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. I don't deserve you, he murmured against her hair. Probably not, Maya teased. But you have me anyway. Later, as they sat on his balcony watching the city lights, Rowan told Maya about his childhood, growing up with wealth but also with high expectations, the pressure to always succeed, to never show weakness. My father built his company from nothing, Rowan explained. He expected James and me to have the same drive, the same focus. James rebelled. I embraced it. At what cost? Maya asked softly. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. I don't know anymore. Until I saw your sketch, I hadn't really thought about it. Maya laid her head on his shoulder. Sometimes it takes someone else's eyes to see ourselves clearly. Speaking of eyes, Rowan said, his tone lighter, I have an event next week. A charity gala for the Children's Hospital. Would you come with me? Maya sat up, surprised. You want to go public after everything that's happened today? I'm tired of hiding what matters to me, Rowan said. If we're going to be together, we shouldn't have to sneak around. Let's face the cameras on our terms. Are you sure? The question is, are you sure? It won't be easy. The press will be watching your every move. Maya thought about it. I've spent my whole life helping others see the world through my eyes. Maybe it's time to step into the frame myself. The week leading up to the gala was a whirlwind for Maya. Between working on the children's book illustrations and preparing for her interview at the hospital, She barely had time to worry about her impending public debut as Rowan Hale's girlfriend. The morning of her hospital interview, Maya woke early, nervous but excited. The position would allow her to work with young patients, using art as therapy to help them express their feelings and cope with their illnesses. The hospital was bright and modern, with colorful murals decorating the children's wing. Dr. Rachel Chen, the program director, greeted Maya warmly. "Your portfolio is impressive," Dr. Chen said as they walked through the ward. "But more importantly, your teaching references spoke about your ability to connect with students on an emotional level. Art helps us say things we can't always put into words," Maya explained, "especially when we're facing something difficult." As part of the interview, Maya was asked to lead a short art session with a group of young patients. She helped them create simple collages representing their happy places, listening and encouraging as they worked. A young girl named Lily, who was receiving chemotherapy, created a beach scene with a bright sun. "This is where I'm going to go when I'm all better," she told Maya. "It's beautiful," Maya said, blinking back tears. "I can almost feel the sunshine." After the session, Dr. Chen invited Maya to her office to discuss the position further. "The children responded wonderfully to you," she said. "We'd like to offer you the position, starting next month if that works for you." Maya beamed. "It would be perfect. I've just signed a contract for a children's book series, but I can balance both." Dr. Chen hesitated. "There is one thing we should discuss. We've seen the recent press coverage about your relationship with Rowan Hale." Maya's smile faded. "Does that affect the job offer?" "Not in the way you might think," Dr. Chen assured her. "Mr. Hale is actually one of our biggest donors. The new oncology wing is named after his father." "I didn't know that," Maya said, surprised. "The hospital board is very pleased with the connection, as you can imagine, but I want to be clear. We're hiring you for your talent and your heart, not your relationship." Maya felt a mix of relief and a strange new awareness. Her connection to Rowan was changing how the world saw her, opening doors but also raising questions about her own merits. That evening, as she prepared for the gala, Maya's phone rang. It was Rowan. "I'll pick you up in an hour," he said. "Are you nervous?" "A little," Maya admitted. "I've never been to anything like this before." "Just be yourself," Rowan said. "That's who I want by my side." Maya hung up and looked at herself in the mirror. She'd chosen a midnight blue gown, simple but elegant. Her hair was swept up, revealing the delicate silver earrings Rowan had sent over that morning. She looked like herself, but a version of herself she hadn't seen before. Confident, beautiful, worthy of standing beside someone like Rowan Hale. When Rowan arrived, his reaction confirmed it. He stood in her doorway, momentarily speechless. "You are extraordinary," he finally said. "It's just a dress," Maya replied, suddenly shy. "It's not the dress," Rowan said, taking her hand. "It's you." The trip to the gala was a blur of lights and nerves. Rowan's limousine pulled up to the red carpet outside the Plaza Hotel, where photographers were already lined up, awaiting the arrival of New York's elite. "Ready?" Rowan asked, squeezing her hand. Maya took a deep breath. "Ready." The moment they stepped out of the car, flashbulbs exploded. Reporters called Rowan's name, asking who his date was, how they'd met, how long they'd been together. Rowan simply smiled, his arm firm around Maya's waist, guiding her past the shouted questions and into the ballroom. Inside, the charity gala was in full swing. Hundreds of New York's wealthiest and most influential citizens mingled under crystal chandeliers, bidding on silent auction items and making donations to the hospital. "Rowan." A woman in her 60s approached them, elegant in a silver gown, her grey hair perfectly styled. "I've been trying to reach you all week." "Mother," Rowan greeted her with a polite kiss on the cheek. "I've been busy." His mother's gaze shifted to Maya, assessing her with cool interest. "So I've seen in the papers. Aren't you going to introduce us?" "Of course." "Mother, this is Maya Ellis. Maya, my mother, Evelyn Hale Winters." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hale Winters," Maya said, extending her hand. Evelyn took it briefly. "Likewise, I understand you're an artist." "Yes, I'm an illustrator." "How fascinating." Evelyn's tone suggested it was anything but. Rowan's father was a great patron of the arts, before his untimely death. Mother, Rowan warned. What? I'm simply making conversation. Evelyn turned back to Maya. You must come to dinner at the house sometime, get to know the family properly. I'd like that, Maya replied, though she sensed there was more beneath the invitation than simple hospitality. Wonderful. I'll have my assistant arrange it. Evelyn touched Rowan's arm. Harold Winters wants to speak with you about the Hong Kong expansion. He's by the bar. After she walked away, Maya gave Rowan a questioning look. Harold Winters is my stepfather, Rowan explained, and a member of Hailtech's board. She seems formidable. Rowan smiled wryly. That's one word for her. She means well in her own way. As they made their way through the crowd, Maya noticed how people responded to Rowan. With deference, with eagerness, with calculation. This was his world, a place where relationships were often based on what people could gain from each other. They were approached by a tall man with Rowan's blue eyes, but a looser, less disciplined bearing. The man of the hour, he said, clapping Rowan on the shoulder, and his new muse. James, Rowan said stiffly, I didn't expect to see you here. I wouldn't miss it, James replied, his smile not reaching his eyes. Mother insisted. He turned to Maya, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips. James Hale, the less successful, more charming brother. Maya Ellis, she replied, immediately wary of his overly familiar manner. The artist who captured my brother's heart with a napkin sketch, James said. I've heard the story. Very romantic. Very convenient. What does that mean? Maya asked. Nothing at all, James said smoothly. I'm just happy for my brother. He works too hard, needs someone to help him relax. That's enough, James, Rowan said, his voice hard. Always so serious, James sighed. Some things never change. He looked past them, his expression brightening. Ah, there's Michael Davis. I should say hello. As James walked away, Maya felt Rowan tense beside her. Your brother knows Michael Davis. Apparently, Rowan said, watching James approach the Nexus Tech CEO with familiar ease. That's a recent development. Their conversation was interrupted by the beginning of the formal program. Everyone took their seats as the hospital director began her speech, thanking major donors and introducing the evening's focus, raising funds for a new pediatric research center. When it was Rowan's turn to speak, Maya watched with pride as he addressed the crowd. He spoke not about numbers or business strategies, but about hope, the hope that advanced research could give to children and families facing illness. My father died of a heart condition that today would be treatable, Rowan told the audience. Every advance we fund, every breakthrough we support, means another family that doesn't have to say goodbye too soon. His words were met with enthusiastic applause and, more importantly, generous donations. By the end of the evening, the gala had raised over $10 million for the hospital. As they were preparing to leave, Maya felt someone touch her arm. It was Dr. Rachel Chen. Maya, I didn't expect to see you here. Dr. Chen, Maya greeted her with a smile. I'm here with Rowan. Dr. Chen looked between them. Yes, I see that now. It's a small world. Rowan joined them, extending his hand to Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen, it's good to see you again. You two know each other? Maya asked, surprised. Dr. Chen runs the art therapy program I've been funding for the past 3 years, Rowan explained. The program I just interviewed for, Maya added, realization dawning. Yes, Dr. Chen said, looking slightly uncomfortable. Maya is our top candidate. Rowan looked at Maya, genuine pleasure on his face. You didn't tell me you'd interviewed. At the hospital, I was going to, Maya said. After tonight, Dr. Chen cleared her throat. Well, I should circulate. Maya will be in touch next week to finalize details. After she left, Rowan took Maya's hand. The hospital's art therapy program is close to my heart. My mother taught art before she married my father. She always believed in its healing power. You never mentioned the connection, Maya said. I didn't know you'd applied there, Rowan replied. It seems we keep finding connections without trying. As they left the gala, the photographers were still waiting. This time Rowan stopped, his arm around Maya's waist. Mr. Hale, is this a serious relationship? How did you two meet? Maya, what attracted you to Rowan Hale? Rowan raised his hand for quiet. "Maya and I are together," he said simply. "That's all anyone needs to know." With that, he led Maya to the waiting car, ignoring the continued shouted questions. Inside the limousine, Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "That was intense." "You were amazing," Rowan said, pulling her close. "Thank you for being there with me tonight." Maya rested her head on his shoulder. "I've never been part of something like that before. All those people, all that money. It's just a different world," Rowan said. "Not better or worse, just different." Maya nodded, but she wasn't entirely convinced. The evening had shown her just how different their lives were, and how complicated their relationship might become. As the car drove through the city, neither of them spoke. But their joined hands said everything they needed to know. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. What they didn't know was that James Hale had already left the gala and was now sitting in Michael Davis's office, reviewing photos of confidential HaleTech documents. "These are exactly what we needed," Michael said, examining the images on his laptop. "With this information, we can move forward with our plan." James leaned back in his chair, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "And you'll uphold your end of the bargain?" "I get control of the European division after the merger," Michael smiled. "Of course, once we acquire HaleTech, you'll get everything we agreed on. Your brother won't know what hit him." "Good," James said, his expression hardening. It's time Rowan learned he's not the only Hale with power. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a financial reporter was receiving an anonymous email with photos from the gala. Specifically, images of Rowan introducing Maya to key investors. The subject line read, "Hale distracts investors with new girlfriend while company faces crisis." The storm that had been brewing was about to break, testing Maya and Rowan's new relationship in ways they couldn't imagine. And the sketch that had brought them together would soon be the least of their concerns. Maya woke to the sound of her phone buzzing repeatedly. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom window as she reached for it, still half asleep. It was just after 7 a.m., and she already had 12 missed calls and countless text messages. "Have you seen the news?" Ellen's text read. "Call me immediately." Maya sat up, suddenly wide awake. She opened her news app and felt her stomach drop. The headline was brutal. HaleTech in crisis, CEO distracted by artist girlfriend as company. Faces takeover. The article featured photos from the charity gala, Rowan introducing Maya to investors, the two of them smiling at each other, her hand in his. The text below speculated that Rowan's new relationship was distracting him from a serious threat to his company. Inside sources reveal that Nexus Tech is preparing a hostile takeover bid for HaleTech, while CEO Rowan Hale spends his evenings at galas with his new girlfriend, artist Maya Ellis, the article stated. Meanwhile, HaleTech's stock has fallen 15% in the past week. Maya's phone rang again. This time it was Rowan. "I'm guessing you've seen it," he said without preamble, his voice tight with anger. "Just now," Maya replied. "Rowan, I'm so sorry." "This isn't your fault," he said firmly. "Someone is feeding these stories to the press, the same someone who's trying to devalue HaleTech stock before Nexus makes their move. Your brother." "I think so. My security team confirmed that James has met with Michael Davis 6 times in the past month." Maya felt sick. "What are you going to do?" "Fight back," Rowan said, determination in his voice. "But first, I need to see you. Can you meet me for breakfast?" "Not at Antonio's, somewhere more private." They agreed to meet at a small cafe near Central Park, away from the financial district and the usual media haunts. When Maya arrived, Rowan was already there, sitting at a corner table with his back to the wall. He looked tired, the circles under his eyes suggesting a sleepless night. "I ordered you a latte," he said as she sat down. "2 sugars, right?" Maya smiled despite the situation. "You remembered." Rowan reached across the table to take her hand. "Maya, I need to ask you something important." Her heart skipped. "Okay. Would you move in with me?" "Just temporarily," he added quickly. "My penthouse has security. No photographers can get in. You'd be protected from all this media attention." Maya hesitated. "Rowan, moving in together is a big step, even temporarily." "I know," he said, "and under normal circumstances, I wouldn't suggest it so soon. But these aren't normal circumstances. I'm worried about you. About me? You're the one whose company is under attack. They're using you to get to me, Rowan said, anger flashing in his eyes. Making it seem like our relationship is somehow responsible for Hailtech's problems. I can handle the business battles, but I don't want you caught in the crossfire. Maya considered his offer. Her tiny Brooklyn apartment offered no protection from persistent photographers or reporters. Already this morning, she'd had to slip past 2 journalists waiting outside her building. Okay, she said finally, but just until this dies down. Relief washed over Rowan's face. Thank you. I'll send movers for your things today. Whatever you need for your work, your art supplies, everything. Maya squeezed his hand. What about Hailtech? How bad is it really? Rowan's expression darkened. Michael Davis is making his move. He's offering to buy Hailtech at 15% below its real value, claiming the company is in decline. Some of our shareholders are getting nervous. And your brother is helping him? It appears so. James has always been jealous of my success, but I never thought he'd go this far. Rowan's voice held more hurt than anger now. Our father left the company to both of us, but James had no interest in the day-to-day operations. He wanted to use Hailtech's resources to fund his own ventures, most of which failed spectacularly. What can I do to help? Maya asked. Rowan smiled softly. You already are, just by being here, by believing in me. Later that day, Maya watched as movers carefully packed her art supplies and personal belongings. Her new children's book illustrations were safely stored in her portfolio case, which she kept with her. By evening, she was settled in Rowan's penthouse, her easel set up near the windows to catch the best light. It's not exactly the normal progression of a relationship, Rowan said as they shared dinner on the balcony, the city lights spread out below them. Meeting, drawing on a napkin, tabloid scandal, moving in together, all in less than a month. Maya laughed. Nothing about us has been normal from the beginning. Rowan raised his wineglass. To abnormal beginnings and better endings. Despite the circumstances, Maya felt a surprising sense of peace as they finished dinner and moved inside. Rowan showed her the room he'd set aside for her art, a spacious area with perfect lighting and views of the city. You can use this as your studio, he said. I thought you might need a space of your own. Maya was touched by his thoughtfulness. It's perfect. Later, as they prepared for bed, the strangeness of their situation hit Maya anew. They had shared kisses, dinner, and now a home, but they were still learning each other's rhythms, still discovering who they were together. Rowan seemed to sense her hesitation. There's a guest room if you'd prefer, he said. No pressure. Maya looked at him, this powerful man who had upended his life for her, who was facing a business crisis, yet still thinking of her comfort. I think we've moved past the guest room stage, she said, taking his hand and leading him toward the master bedroom. That night, as they lay together in the darkness, Maya finally asked the question that had been on her mind. Rowan, what happens if you lose Hailtech? He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. The company has been my life for so long, I'm not sure who I am without it, he admitted. But lately, I've been wondering if that's healthy. If there should be more to my life than stock prices and board meetings. Like what? Maya asked softly. Like art on napkins, he said, kissing her forehead. Like teaching children to draw. Like seeing the world through someone else's eyes. Maya smiled in the darkness. That sounds like a good start. The next morning, Rowan left early for an emergency shareholders meeting. Maya set up her workspace in the studio room and tried to focus on her children's book illustrations. The story was about a little girl who could bring her drawings to life, a concept that felt strangely relevant to Maya's own situation. Around noon, the penthouse intercom buzzed. Maya answered, expecting a delivery. There's an Evelyn Hale Winters here to see Mr. Hale, the security guard announced. Maya hesitated. Mr. Hale isn't here at the moment. I'm aware, came Evelyn's crisp voice, apparently standing right next to the guard. I'd like to speak with you, Miss Ellis. Maya felt a surge of nervousness, but knew she couldn't avoid Rowan's mother forever. Please send her up. Evelyn Hale Winters entered the penthouse like she owned it, which Maya realized she might have at one point. She was impeccably dressed in a designer suit, her silver hair perfectly coiffed. "So," Evelyn said, surveying the space, her gaze lingering on Maya's art supplies and the clothes the movers had hung in the entryway closet. "Oh, you've moved in already. That was quick." "It's temporary," Maya explained, leading Evelyn to the living room. "Because of the media attention. Would you like some coffee or tea?" "Tea, thank you. Earl Grey, if my son keeps it stocked." As Maya prepared the tea, Evelyn walked around the living room, examining the framed napkin sketch and the second drawing that Rowan had also had framed. "You're talented," she said when Maya returned with the tea. "I'll give you that." "Thank you," Maya replied, deciding to take the comment at face value. "Rowan mentioned that you were an art teacher. Many years ago," Evelyn said, accepting the teacup, "before I married Robert Hale and became a corporate wife." There was a hint of something in her voice, regret perhaps, or resignation. "You miss it?" Maya asked. "Teaching art?" Evelyn looked surprised at the question. "Sometimes it was gratifying work." She set her teacup down with a decisive click. "But I didn't come here to discuss my past. I came to talk about my son's future." Maya steeled herself. "I'm listening." "Rowan has always been exceptional," Evelyn began. "Even as a child, he showed remarkable focus and intelligence. After his father died, he took on responsibilities far beyond his years. He built Haletech into something extraordinary." "He did," Maya agreed. "He's an impressive man." "Yes. And now, for the first time in 20 years, he's vulnerable." Evelyn's gaze was direct, challenging. "Because of you." Maya felt her defenses rise. "I'm not responsible for what's happening at Haletech." "Perhaps not intentionally," Evelyn conceded. "But your presence in his life, this distraction, comes at a very convenient time for his enemies. What are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm simply pointing out that James has been meeting with Michael Davis for weeks, and suddenly you appear in Rowan's life, capturing his attention. Just as his company faces its biggest threat." Maya stood, anger flaring. "If you're implying that I'm somehow involved with James or Michael Davis..." "Are you?" Evelyn interrupted. "No, I'd never even heard of them before I met Rowan. This whole situation is as overwhelming for me as it is for him." Evelyn studied her for a long moment, then nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good, then we can move forward." "Move forward with what?" Maya asked, confused. "Helping Rowan save his company, of course." Evelyn reached into her handbag and withdrew a folder. "I've been suspicious of James's activities for some time. He's been spending far beyond his means, and his new startup is hemorrhaging money. When I saw him with Michael Davis at the gala, I asked some old friends to do some digging." She handed Maya the folder. Inside were financial records showing large transfers from a Nexus Tech subsidiary to an offshore account linked to James Hale. "James is selling out his own brother," Maya said, horrified. "And his family legacy," Evelyn added, a flash of real anger in her eyes. "Robert Hale built that company from nothing. He wouldn't have wanted it destroyed by family infighting." "We need to show these to Rowan," Maya said, already reaching for her phone. "Not yet," Evelyn cautioned. "James may be misguided, but he's still my son. I want to give him one chance to make this right." "How?" "I've arranged a family dinner tonight. Harold, my current husband, will be there, as well as James and Rowan and you, if you're willing." Maya hesitated. "I'm not sure my presence would help." "On the contrary," Evelyn said with a hint of a smile. "I think you might be exactly what this family needs right now. A fresh perspective. Someone who sees what the rest of us have lost sight of." After Evelyn left, Maya sat looking at the financial records, troubled by what they revealed. She started to call Rowan, then stopped. Evelyn was right. This was a family matter that needed to be addressed carefully. Instead, she turned to her sketchbook and began to draw, not for her clients or her books, but for herself, for the Hale family. A picture of what could be. If they could move beyond their pain and rivalry. The Hale family estate was located in a wealthy suburb north of the city, a sprawling mansion set amidst manicured gardens. As Rowan drove them through the gates, Maya felt increasingly nervous. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" she asked. "Your mother only met me yesterday, and now I'm attending a family dinner in the middle of a crisis." Mother insisted you be here, Rowan said, puzzled. She was quite specific. Maya chose not to mention Evelyn's visit, deciding to let the evening unfold as his mother had planned. The dinner began awkwardly, with Harold Winters dominating the conversation with business talk, while James drank too much wine and made thinly veiled jabs at Rowan. Evelyn watched it all with a calculating eye, waiting for the right moment. It came during dessert, when James made a dismissive comment about new additions to the family, while looking pointedly at Maya. Speaking of new additions, Evelyn said smoothly, James, how is your partnership with Nexus Tech progressing? James nearly choked on his wine. What are you talking about? Oh, I think you know, Evelyn replied, passing a folder, identical to the one she'd shown Maya, to Rowan. Your offshore account received quite a substantial payment last week, Rowan opened the folder, his expression hardening as he reviewed the contents. You're working with Michael Davis to help him take over Hale Tech, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. Our father's company. James flushed, a mix of anger and shame on his face. You never gave me a chance to be part of it, always the perfect son, the brilliant CEO, while I was just the family disappointment. That's not true, Rowan countered. I offered you a position at Hale Tech 5 years ago. You turned it down, said you wanted to build something on your own. A meaningless position, with no real power. Because you hadn't earned it, Rowan shot back. You wanted to start at the top without doing the work. The brothers glared at each other across the table, years of resentment boiling to the surface. Evelyn and Harold watched in silence, while Maya felt increasingly uncomfortable witnessing this family drama. Finally, she reached into her bag and pulled out a sketch she'd completed that afternoon. I'd like to show you something, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. She laid the drawing on the table where everyone could see it. It was a simple but powerful image. 2 boys building a computer together in a garage, their faces alight with shared joy and purpose. In the background, a man and woman watched proudly, clearly Robert and a younger Evelyn Hale. Rowan told me about how you two started, Maya said, looking between the brothers. Building computers together before Hale Tech even existed. How it was about connecting people, not just making money. James stared at the drawing, something vulnerable passing across his face. You told her about that? He asked Rowan. Of course, Rowan replied, his voice softer now. It was the beginning of everything. Maya has a gift for seeing what matters, Evelyn said, looking at the sketch with a hint of emotion. Something I used to be able to do before I got caught up in appearances and expectations. Harold cleared his throat uncomfortably, clearly not used to such open emotion at the Hale dinner table. The company was supposed to be for both of us, James said, looking directly at Rowan. That's what Dad wanted. I know, Rowan admitted. But after he died, you seemed more interested in quick success than building something lasting. I was trying to protect his legacy. By shutting me out? By waiting until you were ready. Rowan sighed. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't give you enough credit. A heavy silence fell over the table. Maya looked at Evelyn, who gave her a small nod of approval. It's not too late, you know, Maya said quietly, to work together, to rebuild. James laughed bitterly. After what I've done, Rowan would never trust me now. Maybe not immediately, Rowan conceded, but we're still brothers, still Hales. He pushed the financial documents aside. Break your deal with Michael Davis. Help me stop the takeover. Then we can talk about your future at Hale Tech. James looked stunned. You'd give me another chance just like that? Not just like that, Rowan said firmly. You'd have to earn back my trust, start at a reasonable position, and work your way. But yes, I'd give you another chance for Dad. For us. Evelyn smiled, satisfaction in her eyes. Well, that's settled then, she said, as if they'd been discussing nothing more serious than vacation plans. Harold, why don't you and James discuss the legal implications of breaking his contract with Nexus? I'd like to show Maya the garden before it gets dark. Outside, the spring evening was warm and fragrant with blooming flowers. Evelyn led Maya along a winding path through meticulously maintained gardens. That was well done, Evelyn said, after they'd walked in silence for a few minutes. The drawing. It reminded them of what they've lost. Thank you for inviting me, Maya replied. I wasn't sure why you wanted me here, but now I understand. Sometimes it takes a fresh perspective to see what's been in front of us all along. Evelyn stopped at a rose garden, touching a bloom gently. When I saw your napkin sketch in Rowan's office, I recognized the technique immediately. My teaching style. Maya looked at her in surprise. I don't understand. I taught at the Brooklyn Community Arts Center for 15 years before I married. Robert, Evelyn explained, you must have had one of my students as your teacher. Maya's eyes widened. My mother took classes there in the early 80s. She always said her teacher changed how she saw the world. And she taught you, Evelyn said softly. The circle continues. They stood in the garden as twilight descended, two women connected by art and by their love for the same man, though in very different ways. He needs you, you know, Evelyn said finally. Not just to save the company or to mend fences with James. He needs someone who sees him, not the CEO, not the billionaire, but the man. I do see him, Maya assured her. It's what drew me to him from the beginning. Good. Evelyn's smile was more genuine than Maya had yet seen. Then let's go inside and make sure this family doesn't fall apart again. The next week was a whirlwind of activity, as Rowan and James, now working together, fought to protect Hailtech from Michael Davis's takeover attempt. With James providing insider information about Davis's strategy, they were able to secure the support of key shareholders and strengthen the company's position. Maya divided her time between working on her children's book illustrations and her new position at the hospital's art therapy program. The children responded to her warmth and creativity, especially Lily, the young cancer patient who had connected with her during the interview. I finished my beach picture, Lily announced proudly during Maya's second session with her. And I added something new. She showed Maya her drawing. The beach scene now included a small figure holding a sketchbook. Is that me? Maya asked, touched. Lily nodded. You're coming to my happy place too. Mom says when I finish my treatments, we can really go to the beach. I'd like that, Maya said, blinking back tears. That evening, she shared the story with Rowan as they ate dinner on the penthouse balcony. You're making a difference in their lives, Rowan said, just like you've made a difference in mine. How did the board meeting go? Maya asked, changing the subject before she became too emotional. Rowan smiled, better than expected. With James's evidence about Davis's illegal tactics, we were able to convince even the most skeptical board members to reject the takeover bid. And the SEC is now investigating Nexus Tech for stock manipulation. And James? How is that working out? Surprisingly well, Rowan admitted. He's starting in product development, where he should have been all along. He has good ideas when he focuses. I'm glad, Maya said, taking his hand. He's still your brother, despite everything. Family is complicated, Rowan agreed. Speaking of which, my mother has invited us to Sunday brunch. A regular thing, she says. Maya laughed. Evelyn Hale Winters wants regular family brunches. That's unexpected. She's changed these past weeks, Rowan said thoughtfully. Or maybe she's returning to who she used to be. She mentioned reopening her old art studio. As they finished dinner, Rowan seemed contemplative, almost nervous, a mood Maya had rarely seen in him. What's on your mind? She asked as they cleared the table together. I've been thinking about our living arrangement, Rowan said carefully. It was supposed to be temporary, until the media attention died down. Maya's heart sank a little. And now it has. I suppose I should start looking for a new place. Or, Rowan said, taking her hands, you could just stay. Maya looked up at him, surprised. Stay? I know it's fast, he said. Everything about us has been fast, but these past weeks, having you here, it's felt right. Like the penthouse finally became a home. Rowan, I'm not asking for forever, he clarified quickly. Not yet. I'm just asking for more time to see where this goes, to wake up with you in the morning and share dinner with you at night. Maya felt her heart expand with warmth. I'd like that too. Relief and joy spread across Rowan's face. Really? Really? She confirmed. But I'll need to expand my studio space. The children's book series has been renewed for 3 more books after the first one. "Take whatever space you need," Rowan said, pulling her into his arms. "The whole penthouse is yours." Later that night, as Maya was getting ready for bed, she noticed a large wrapped package leaning against the wall. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," Rowan suggested, a smile playing at his lips. Maya unwrapped the package to find a large, beautifully framed canvas. It was her napkin sketch, the original that had started everything, but Rowan had had it professionally preserved, hand-mounted in a museum-quality frame. "I thought it deserved better than office glass," he explained, "given how much it changed my life." Maya ran her fingers over the frame, tears welling in her eyes. "Our lives," she corrected softly. "Our lives," Rowan agreed, taking her in his arms. 6 months later, Antonio's cafe was closed for a private event. The small Italian restaurant had been transformed with twinkling lights and flowers, creating an intimate, magical atmosphere. In one corner, a small art display featured 2 key pieces: the original napkin sketch in its museum frame, and a new drawing Maya had created just for tonight, of her and Rowan at the cafe. The moment that might have been if she'd stayed that Tuesday evening, instead of leaving her sketch behind. The cafe was filled with their closest friends and family. Evelyn, now teaching art again at a local community center, was deep in conversation with Dr. Chen about the hospital's expanded art therapy program. James, looking healthier and more focused than he had in years, was sharing a laugh with Tony, the cafe's owner. Maya stood by the window, watching as Lily, now in remission and growing stronger every day, showed Rowan a new drawing she'd created. "He's good with her," Ellen commented, joining Maya with a glass of champagne. "Who would have thought the tech tycoon had such a soft spot for kids?" "There's a lot about Rowan that would surprise people," Maya replied with a smile. "Speaking of surprises," Ellen said, "the children's publisher called today. Your first book is already in its 3rd printing, and they're talking about animated adaptation rights." Maya shook her head in wonder. "A year ago, I was struggling to pay rent. And now you're still the same talented artist," Ellen finished. "For her? Just with a bigger audience and a billionaire boyfriend." "He's more than that," Maya said softly, watching as Rowan crossed the room toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. The music changed to a slow song as Rowan reached her. "May I have this dance?" he asked, extending his hand. As they moved together on the small dance floor, Rowan leaned down to whisper in her ear, "Happy anniversary." "It's only been 6 months," Maya pointed out with a smile. "6 months since you moved in," Rowan corrected. "But 1 year exactly since. You left your heart in ink on a napkin in this cafe." Maya looked up at him, touched that he'd remembered the date. "Best impulsive decision I ever made." "I have something for you," Rowan said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's breath caught as he opened it, revealing not a ring but a charm for the bracelet he'd given her on their 6-month anniversary, a tiny silver easel. "For all the beautiful things you've created and will create," he explained, fastening it to her bracelet alongside the heart charm that was already there. "Including us." Maya touched the charms gently. "It's perfect." Rowan took a deep breath. "I have one more surprise, but this one is for everyone." He led her to the center of the room and clinked his glass for attention. As their friends and family gathered around, Rowan looked directly at Maya. "1 year ago, a sketch changed my life. It showed me what I was missing: connection, understanding, love." He took her hand. "Since then, Maya has brought color and meaning into my world in ways I never thought possible." He turned to address the room. "Which is why I'm announcing the creation of the Hale Arts Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to bringing art education and therapy to underserved communities and hospitals across the country." Applause and cheers filled the cafe. Dr. Chen caught Maya's eye and gave her a thumbs up. They had been discussing such a project for weeks, but Maya hadn't known Rowan was already putting it into motion. "And," Rowan continued when the noise died down, "I'd like to ask Maya to serve as the Foundation's creative director. If she's willing." Maya stared at him in shock. "Rowan, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he encouraged. "You've shown me how art can heal, how it can connect people across every boundary. Help me share that with others. Looking into his eyes, Maya saw the man she'd first sketched a year ago. Still powerful, still successful, but no longer alone. No longer with his heart trying to float away, but firmly anchored in a life filled with purpose and love. Yes, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Yes to the foundation, yes to all of it. As Rowan pulled her into his arms and the room erupted in cheers again, Maya caught sight of their reflection in the cafe window. Artist and businessman, dreamer and builder. Two people who had found each other through a simple sketch on a napkin. Later, that night, after their guests had gone, and they walked hand in hand along the quiet West Village streets, Rowan stopped at a corner and turned to Maya. "There's something I didn't say back there," he said, his voice serious. "Something just for you." Maya looked up at him, waiting. "I love you," he said simply. "Not for what you've done for me or my family or the company, just for who you are." Maya reached up to touch his face, memorizing the moment as she had so many others, not in ink this time, but in her heart. "I love you too," she replied. "The man, not the billionaire, the person who sees me clearly." As they continued their walk home, to the home they now truly shared, Maya thought about the many sketches she'd created throughout her life. Some had been for clients, some for herself, but only one had changed everything, the sketch that stayed,